afternoon. Can everyone hear me? I'll put on my teacher voice. So, good afternoon. For those of you who may not already know me, I'm Janet Bishop, and I'm Dean of the Claremont College's Library. And I'm thrilled to be here today. I think this will be an amazing presentation. At the library, we're always looking for various ways to support our student and faculty academic pursuits and expand our research horizons. With this in mind, and in celebration of the 80th anniversary of Scripps College Press, it's my honor to welcome you all to the Spring 2022 Frederic W. Goudy Lecture on Book Arts with Colette Fu. I'd like to take a moment to I'd like to take a moment to thank Scripps College Press, who helped make this lecture possible. And Scripps College Press was founded over 80 years ago on Scripps College's campus as a typographic laboratory. I was amazed to learn that. So a very old press here. For over 36 years, students have created limited edition artist books and prints that are collected by alumni, book artists, and public and private collections. For about the same time, Scripps Press has also brought prominent artists and scholars in book arts to share their artwork and research with the Claremont colleges, as well as the Claremont community and public. This week, students in Professor Chia Kalasaga's artist book and experimental relief printing classes have enjoyed being introduced to paper engineering by Colette Fu and sharing their in-progress final projects with her. And while this in-person lecture for this year, unfortunately, could not be attended by the general public due to our ongoing COVID-19 restrictions, a recording of this talk will be made available to ensure that we continue our tradition of making the Goudy Lecture Book Arts accessible to the public. Many thanks also to our partners at Pomona College's Asian Studies program and the Intercollegiate Department of Asian American Studies. These programs are critical for keeping Asian cultures alive, both here in the United States and abroad, as well as providing opportunities for students to discover and learn from their new global perspectives. And last but certainly not least, my thanks to Shoying Zhou, head of the Asian Library at the Claremont College's Library. Shoying has worked very closely with Scripps College Press, the Asian Studies program, and the Intercollegiate Department of Asian American Studies on organizing today's talk, titled What the Butterfly Dragon Taught Me, the Pop-Up Books of Colette Fu. With that, I welcome Shoying to provide some background information on Colette and what she will be discussing with you today. Thank you again.
Thank you, Janet, for the warm welcome to everybody, especially to our guest, Colette. So I will say a few words about Colette. And maybe you already know that Colette is based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She received her MFA degree in Fine Arts Photography from the Rochester Institute of Technology in 2003. And soon after that, she began devising complex compositions that incorporate photography and pop-up paper engineering. Her pop-up books are included in the National Museum of Women in the Arts, Library of Congress, Metropolitan Museum of Art, and many private and rare archival collections. Colette's numerous awards include a 2020 John Mitchell Artist and Sculptors Grant, the Megan Loeffler Prize for Best Paper Engineer Artist Book, and a Fulbright Research Fellowship in China, where she began her re-archived Dragon project, an extensive visual exploration of China's ethnic minorities. In 2017, Colette created the world's largest pop-up book, utilizing her own photographs. The name of the book is Tao Hua Yuan Ji, so some of them already know the classic Center. A passionate educator, Colette also teaches art making as a way to give voice to communities through pop-up paper engineering projects. She teaches pop-up courses and community workshops to marginalized populations at art centers, universities, and institutions internationally. Without further delay, please join me again in welcoming her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Xu and Janet, for the lovely introduction. And of course, I also want to thank Jennifer from the Denison Library and Tia Blassingame, my friend and colleague that unfortunately could not be here with us today. So I wanted to give you an overview of what I do and why I do what I do, because it's, it was just kind of a very organic journey. So I'm gonna be bold and remove my notes so you don't see. So here's a photo of me in 1995 with a woman from my mom's ancestral village in Liangshan, China, Sichuan province. She is Nasu Yi minority, but I wanted to also show you that, hold on, this was me in high school just 9 years before that photo. So, you know that phrase, I see a lot of Asian students in the room, where are you from, right? We hear it all the time. And in this case, for me, I'm from New Jersey. So that was what I looked at before, kind of right before I went to China. So my mom and dad actually met in Baltimore. My mom was studying voice. I'm gonna just take this down a little bit. My mom was studying voice at Peabody Conservatory of Music, and my father was studying mechanical engineering at Johns Hopkins. And so my father is from Shandong province, which is the northeast, and my mother is from southwest Yunnan province. And Yunnan province is very diverse. It borders on Tibet, Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. So within that province, it's very diverse. So I went there after college. I studied French language and literature at the University of Virginia. And I managed to graduate. I wasn't very excited to be in school, but at the same time, I didn't know what I wanted to do or where else to go. So I graduated, and after college, I went to China to teach English. And I went to Yunnan province, where my mother was born. And there I learned that my great-grandfather had been governor of the province and general of the army from 1927 to 1945. And these are all things that I didn't know growing up. I also did not know that my mom was Yi minority. I didn't know what a minority was. I didn't know about the Han. I didn't know that China had 55 ethnic minority groups that constitute less than 9% of the population. So while teaching in Yunnan, so I taught English at the Yunnan Nationalities University of China, which is a university for students from different minority villages in Yunnan province. And after my first year, I started learning the language, I started becoming more comfortable traveling, and then exploring the area. And this is a Bai, B-A-I, minority woman from Yunnan province. And this is a Yi baby from Daliangshan in Sichuan province. And a young Yi girl that I just met when I was wandering around on the mountains. And so all these photos were taken between I guess 1994 and 1996. And these are some me men just hanging out in the rain on the side of the road. So I decided, oh, I actually enjoy taking photos, and maybe I can work doing photography. So I thought, and I kind of had this idea of, oh, maybe I can be a National Geographic photographer. Not even researching anything, but just thinking, I want to just be maybe like an ethnographic photographer or a photojournalist, something like that. So I came back to the US and studied photography at VCU, went to New York and New York City, did an internship there, and then worked at some various jobs, but then felt like I wasn't making art anymore, I was just working. So I decided to go to grad school and went to Rochester Institute of Technology and studied fine art photography. So this image now shows you my thesis project, which was 2 4 by 4 feet light boxes with collaged imagery. It was from scanned 35mm film. And so basically that's how I would Photoshop. But the project was really heavy. These light boxes were really heavy and cumbersome. I had storage problems. I had to rent a truck to have my first solo show in Brooklyn. So I had to load this all up into the truck. There was at least 5 collages like this. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking, how can I make work that is not so cumbersome and with portability and storage? So I should probably say that this image should come first. I was researching books at the Borders bookstore. They used to have a toy book section. Actually, they probably still do. But I thought I would make a game out of photographs. Because I always liked to make things with my hands growing up. And then it seems like in college, I was just doing Photoshop and computer work. Hardly any exploring anymore. And I saw this, immediately opened this book. It's The Wizard of Oz by Robert Sabuda. And I was instantly enamored. But I wasn't going to just start on learning how to do this. And I remember at the time, this was 2003, I thought, well, oh, it's $25. It's too expensive for a book. So I didn't actually buy anything today. But, so in the back of my mind, I thought I wanted to learn how to make a pop-up book. And then I saw this call for artists at this artist residency in Midland, Michigan at the Alden B. Dow Center for Creativity. And this is Alden B. Dow's way of life cycle. And the bottom part there that says honesty, humility, and enthusiasm, that's what really struck me. And I wrote a proposal, and I thought that I wanted to learn how to make pop-up books because movable books have a history of showing how the human body works. Medical students used it, learned about the human body from medical flaps. You lift this up and you see the heart, you lift this up and you see something else. Let me think. I shouldn't have gone off. Anyway, so I saw this call for entries at the Alden B. Dow Center for Creativity, and I thought, well, I have this. I'm enthusiastic, and I have humility, and I have honesty. So I made my proposal like that about how I wanted to learn how to make pop-up books, and use them to explore the world around me, as astronomers and philosophers once did with original pop-up books, or original movable books, I should say. So I took photos from my thesis project. This was just a picture of balls from, it's a Sarah City Workout Mania in Pennsylvania. And I used these images for my thesis project, and I thought, let me just pop that up. So this is just called balls. And it was a hotel conference room of just these giant exercise balls, which I just thought was really interesting. And then at Virginia Agricultural Center, these were milk jugs. So this is just called jugs. And I think, and within that is, because it was the Virginia Agricultural Center, and it has milk testing strips, slaughterhouse equipment, and different ways of that they did research. So I did a series of 21 books, and this was a year after graduation. And what I didn't mention was I did those 21 books over the course of 4 more artist residencies. So basically, I learned pop-up book making by attending these artist residencies. And to date, I've gone to over 22. And the last residency was two or three weeks ago at Women's Studio Workshop, where I was there for 2 months. My life has changed. I've not been attending as many artist residencies, but it's just kind of a coincidence that I was just at one. So I thought, okay, so now I've been making pop-up books at all these artist residencies, and it was about 2007 where I thought, what if I combined my knowledge of pop-up book making now with my former interest and passion with exploring the villages in Yunnan province. So I applied to Fulbright. My proposal was to make a photographic pop-up book of the 25 ethnic minority groups of Yunnan province. And in hindsight, it sounds strange, and especially that it doesn't include all of the minorities, it's just the 25 of Yunnan. But I got accepted. So Fulbright gave me 10 months to go back to Yunnan province, base myself in Kunming, and so I zip-lined back over the Angry River, and I worried, well, now it's 2008, but I left in 1990, last time I'd been there was 1997, and life had changed so much. There was Prada, there was drive-thru McDonald's, Walmart's, but I found that if you just got on a bus and traveled a couple hours away, life still seemed in many regions like it did that I saw in the mid-90s. So this is a fire festival, Ashi Fire Festival. Ashi is a branch of the Yi. So the Yi minority has many different branches, just like many of these groups do. And I just popped it up. Somehow I forgot. Some of my first pop-up books were smaller, but then I forgot about the portability. I started getting bigger again. This was probably about 36 inches wide. And they're just single spread pop-up books because I think I came from a photo background where for me it was, you put a black frame and you hang it up on the wall. So that's how I thought of pop-up books. Like, I'm going to make a pop-up book. It originally had flat covers and I just would hang them, display them on a shelf in a gallery. That was what I thought I would do with these books. This was a Dai minority woman in the very southern area of Yunnan province. And they have the most delicious food. Maybe some of you in your room actually had Dai food before. So I literally I had so many pictures of food and I love the food that I just made these book about food. So this is about 24 by 36 inches also, and I love to make one large copy of a book, and then I'll make a smaller version in it and have an edition of 10, around 10, that I'll sell for income. So here's an image. It's a very cleaned up image of most of the elements that were in that book. It doesn't look like this literally when I'm printing it out. It's much more chaotic, but I made this more presentable for you. This is a raw on the border of Yunnan and Myanmar. And this is just something I thought that was interesting, that in some areas I could really blend in. So here's me, I went with a photographer from the city, from Kunming, and we stayed at this family's house, kind of like a Airbnb, I guess, but you just kind of ask around. None of the hotels had rooms available because it was such a crowded festival. The festival we were going down for was called Rub You Black, where the government gives the residents perfumed mud, and it's just thousands of people in the main square just spreading mud on each other. And supposedly it's good luck for children, long life for older people, and for women to make you more beautiful, of course. So this was during this Mud Rub You Black festival, there's the Hmong women have a dance, a hair swinging dance. And I've seen many hair swinging dances. So I ended up living in Kunming for a total of about 4 years. So I've seen several hair swinging dances. And so I decided to make a book about this hair swinging dance. So if you see, so there's certain mechanisms that go well for creating an illusion of rotation. You can see on the left all my pop-up books. The northwest area of Yunnan province live the Dulong, and the Dulong are the women used to tattoo their faces at puberty, and some say that the tattoos resemble butterflies, and there's a theory that they would tattoo themselves so that neighboring tribes wouldn't kidnap the women. And so I met this woman, Kaifuna, in 2008 during my Fulbright. And so, and then you can see in the middle, that's a bridge that you would go to travel to her village. So I brought this book with me, and I'll show it to you after I'm done speaking. But as of 2013, there were only 28 women that still alive with their faces tattooed. And you'll see that on this fabric, that the fabric that she's wearing, which is like her own weaving, it used to be woven out of cotton, out of hemp, but nowadays it's just cotton. So I found hemp material that you can print on, and I printed the imagery of her blanket onto the hemp fabric, which is also on some of the butterflies. And I thought, what imagery can I put on the butterflies? So there was a 17-kilometer walk to find her. So on the butterflies, I put photographs that I had just taken on the walk to find her. The fabric on the outside is Himalayan hemp from India, and I like to show similarities between different cultures. And the Himalayan region in India is very close to the Himalayan region in China, so I wanted to show that on the outside. And also because I didn't buy any hemp when I was in her village or in her area. So this is stone forest, which is also in Yunnan province. You can see how big this is because in the bottom left there's a trash can. See that? It's not a trash can, but I'm not sure what you call that. A very pretty trash receptacle. This is something I had learned when I went to the park. Actually, I might not even have known it when I went. I might have learned about it later. But so the words "stone forest" in red were carved out of the calligraphy of my great-grandfather. And the park was open to the public after he supposedly opened the park to the public. And so he's known as the founder of the park. And it's now a World UNESCO Heritage Site. So I made a book about that, and when I had gone in the mid-90s, the Sani people are known to live in Stone Forest, and they have this beautiful embroidery, which is mainly cross-stitch. But I didn't buy many things when I lived there in the 90s. I just did not find it valuable or interesting. So for this book, which is now, we're getting to 4 feet now, the base was based on an embroidery that I bought in 2008, but the colors, so there's a Beanie Baby there for scale, but the colors of the embroidery were, the colors were different, they're brighter now, and they were using yarn. They weren't using the fine embroidery thread that I had remembered. So I decided to re-embroider the embroidery that I bought. I did not know it would take that long. This is how far I got after 1 year. Because you see all these women, they're chatting, they're eating, and they're embroidering while they're talking, and it's fast, and no problem. I could not work that fast, and it was very difficult to do anything else. Like, because I was like 1 red, 2 red, 3 red, 4 red, 5 red, 6 red, 1 green, 2 green, 3 green, couldn't even watch TV. So I did do this far, and then I photographed it, photoshopped it to look complete, printed it on Tyvek, and then thought I missed the tactile quality of it. So I selectively embroidered on these. So I showed you the back so you could see those are the areas where there's nothing popping up. So you could see that if you touched it, you would feel it. So in 2014, I attended another artist residency at the Swatch Art Peace Hotel in Shanghai. If you want to be in China and attend an artist residency, this has to be the best residency, if not one of the best residencies in the world. You can attend for 3 to 6 months. It's hosted by Swatch Watch, and I sound like I'm doing an advertisement for it, but it really was a dream. Like, I can't even believe I was there. There's 18 artists there at a time from around the world, all kinds of artists. Like, you could be a chef, that's considered an artist. There was a pipe cleaner, a man that made sculptures out of pipe cleaners. There was a DJ from Sweden, dancers, poets, and artists from China too. And that's these are pictures of somebody's studio, not mine, and a hallway, and then that's the outside of the building, which is on the historic Bund, which is the most touristic place in Shanghai. So it was very great. So while I was in Shanghai, my proposal was to travel to the other minority autonomous regions outside of Yunnan province. And this is in eastern Tibet, in Qinghai province. Experience in one, pop-up spread, but this was my attempt, and this was a trip that oh, actually, this was not while I was at Swatch, now in hindsight. This was in 2017. Let's see. That's me talking. It's very cool. So that's called a Chong dance. Maybe some of you have seen them before. So with that one, I decided to make a star book, which I brought another version of the star book here also. So while I was in Shanghai, I took a trip to Xinjiang in northwest China, which I'm sure many of you know. It's the area where the Uyghur population mainly reside, and they're a highly persecuted minority group right now. But I traveled there in 2014, and one of the most obvious things for me to portray was the cuisine there. And so this book, to me, was to complement the Dai food book that you saw earlier, the green, I kind of refer to it as the green book. So there's ice cream, the naan, this date drink, and you'll see the cover is also punched brass, which you'll see in later photos. So on the top left, you see the front left is the naan bread, which is, the designs are punched traditionally with this chicken feather stamp with a concentric circle. So every piece of bread is made with such care. And then in here is like the pilaf and pumpkin dumplings, and this. So on the cover, I wanted to show the relationship between the Arabic designs that I've seen in Muslim areas in China with patterns in other regions of the world, like Morocco. So I wanted to go to Morocco to study metalsmithing, so I went there and attended another artist residency in Tetuan, which is northern Morocco, and that's my teacher on the right, and that's me learning on the left. And then, so the cover of the Uyghur food book was made with that traditional Moroccan technique of metalsmithing. This is some of you have saw my accordion pop-up book over there of a meow fishing contest. Here's another type of accordion pop-up book that I made about the Yao women of Guizhou province. So the Miao people also, the Miao images I have on the table are also from Guizhou, and the Yao, this is dragon back rice terrace fields of Guizhou. And the women there, the Yao women there, are traditionally not supposed to show their hair, but now they're showing it for tourists. There's actually a Guinness Book World Record of the woman with the longest hair from that area. So this book I wanted to relate it to the book on top, which is Day in the Zoo, which is kind of just showing that the women are kind of like, something like that too. So they're famous for their long hair, and they wash it in rice water. And so on the front, I wanted to put the directions that they advertise for how you too can have beautiful hair like theirs. On the table, I brought these books. These three eggs are about Miao folklore, and the Miao believe that their origin story is that Butterfly Mother gave birth to 12 eggs, and from those 12 eggs are the origin of all living things, including animals, people, and the Miao. And the Miao are also well known for their embroidery and their batik, and they actually are known for paper cutting, which I did not know anything about. So they use paper cutting to inform the designs for their batik and embroidery. So thus, how I decided I wanted to do some paper cutting in one of these works. And this was a festival in Guizhou province called the Sisters Rice Festival. It's kind of a Valentine's Day, where traditionally the women would meet their partners at this festival. Now it's just an annual gathering where they all show off their best silver. And well, I'll show you when I demonstrate to you how these eggs work. But so this was a draft in the computer how I might design what's going to go inside. I know how it will be presented. It'll be presented like a diorama where there's horizontal layers, and now I have to just decide what will be in those layers. And for this festival, I wanted to tell the story that the silver was, the Miao carried their wealth in silver because they migrated a lot. It's also a woman's dowry, and her worth is in silver. A woman to have a complete costume would be over 40 pounds of silver. And during this festival, a woman might carry a handkerchief filled with sticky rice, colorful glutinous rice, and there will be things inside that might give out signals of how she's feeling towards this man that's interested to her. And if she put in a pair of chopsticks or rose petals, it says she's interested in him. If she puts red peppers or ferns or one chopstick, that would mean she's not interested in him. So that's what this is a common folk tale amongst the Miao that's illustrated in this egg. There's also in the Miao area, there's a cave where a family has been making paper for 19 generations. And it's supposedly that the climate within the cave has the ideal climate for making paper, and there's mulberry trees all around the area, and the water is supposedly the perfect acidity for making paper. So when I was there in 2014, I actually bought some paper and finally figured out a way to use it. And so I put it in this series. This is just a photo I want to show you what the food looks like in the area. Do you miss it shooting?
Yeah, it's very good video. I came from there.
And those are mulberry leaves surrounding the egg and mulberry flowers. Well, I guess I don't really need to show you this video because I'm going to show you live, well, I might as well. So this video is basically right after I finished making them, and I wanted to show how they open and close. That fabric is hand woven. The purplish brown fabric is hand woven indigo fabric, also dyed with cowhide, pig's blood, persimmon peels, and chestnuts. So this is Bame. Some of you may be familiar with Tao Hua Yuan Ji's poem about a fisherman who traveled into a peach blossom forest where he found that people were living in harmony with nature and each other, and people described it as he described it as a utopia. And when he was leaving the village, the villagers said, "Don't tell anyone where we are," but he marked his path and told government officials where it was, but when they traced the path back, they couldn't find it. So this is a very classical Chinese story that even my father, who's memorized it when he was little. So I had decided that book was a book that might hold up well when I was given the opportunity to create a room-size installation. So here's us making the cover from gator board, which gator board is very, very stiff and light. And I thought about using wood, but wood's too heavy. But gator board is the main disadvantage is it's expensive. So the material just for the cover was almost $2,000. So here's me and my assistant rolling out the vinyl for the cover. And then using a 66-inch Epson printer, printing out the parts onto just cardboard. And I've never done anything like this before, so it's kind of like, what next? What next? Okay, now I'm going to print these, now I'm going to glue them to cardboard. And then with a box cutter, I'm going to cut out the images, and then just try to start assembling it as I do with the small book. And it was amazing. It almost worked exactly like the small version. So in the original gallery, there was so they don't have much practice. This is the Tao Hua Museum workers, but they didn't have much experience doing this, and I wanted to videotape it. So I asked them to open and close it. So there's that little flap is there because originally there was a an air duct in the center of the other gallery, and we couldn't, I designed that, well, I didn't design, my friend helped me design that so that the cover could still be 21 feet. And originally I wanted it to be 21 feet because that would have been the Guinness Book of World Records, world's largest pop-up book. Unfortunately, I was disqualified because they said that a book should have more than one spread. Thank you. So I have a few books that I wanted to show you in person also, and then afterwards you can come up and look closer, and then if you have questions, happy to answer those. So this is the Ahi Tiger Festival. And this one, I've experimented with adding electronics for audio and lights, but I just realized that for archival purposes, there's a problem with batteries and et cetera, and technology changing, so this won't change. One thing I've said to students is when I'm designing them, I make sure that you can open it left to right, right? And then also right to left, and then in the middle. So it's important for me that all of those ways work. This is a Jinghua weaving competition on the border of Myanmar and Yunnan province. And they all have stories, and that's how I decide what to put into the books. So this story is based on, there was a young Jinghua couple, and the boy designed a little bamboo case for her to carry her mouth harp. They also live in an area where the nickname is called the Land of Peacocks. So I decided to make this peacock, shape out of a mouth harp, because I actually purchased a mouth harp when I was over there, and supposedly she started weaving the patterns from the bamboo case into her weavings. And then also everything else on here are designs that inform the weaving. Like a cat print, and pumpkin seeds, fern. And then this is an animal trap, because supposedly the women wear waist hoops that are supposed to resemble animal traps to protect them. And you can all come up here to look at the books. And lastly is Kaifuna, which you already saw the video. And this I wanted to show you how, I know you saw the video, but this is how they close, just kind of like this. Before open. And then here now I've incorporated text. So what I was telling you, I decided to just put that in there now. And just close it like this. Any questions?
Yeah, 5 to 8 minutes. 5 minutes for questions. Yeah, please. Yes.
Hi, I'm Sana. Thank you for sharing your artwork. It's really
Mainly, if like with Kaifuna, I just asked her if I could take a photo, and she said yes. I mean, people see me with my camera. Generally I'll ask them if I can take a picture, and so that's the main way I get. I feel I wouldn't take anything and use it if I didn't feel like it was something where they wouldn't want to be represented, and I try not to represent them incorrectly. But that's the main way I've done it. And we're in different times now than when I first started doing that. So it's yeah.
Yes.
When you create your pop-up books, do you ever have a specific audience in mind? Like who you want to see them specifically?
So originally, I started making the books because I wanted to create a publication, which would be just an introduction to the different minority groups within China. So my audience was going to be just, I guess you could say, Americans, like people in the United States. But now it's just, it's gone, anybody who's interested in learning about indigenous people and book arts, and it's kind of, I don't have a specific audience that it's really what I want to make and where I want to go, and then I can make something from where my interests take me to.
I'm just curious about, like, since you've done residencies in China and the US, like, what kind of differences you found in, like, art residencies?
There's a lot of different kinds of residencies. Some of them you can pay, some of them pay you, some of them have just you are the only artist, some of them will have, you're with a group of artists. Often there's 6 artists. I found that was a common thing. Some of them are learning residencies, like I learned metalsmithing in Morocco. Some of them are just literally, most of them are to give you time and space away from your everyday life. And the residency I was just at, that was different. That was a production residency where I actually collaborated with the studio, and they helped me make a book. So we collaborate and work together to make a book. So that was good because I learned different techniques of printmaking and binding that I wasn't familiar with before. Yes?
There's just like switching between working on projects like this that are more, I guess, your own interests and your own passions versus like hosting workshops in Philadelphia and working sort of with the communities next year. Like how does it switch between those?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't really hear.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just saying, like, how does it feel, I guess, to switch between projects where you're working abroad or working on sort of something that you're interested in, I guess, versus like hosting workshops in the United States, like in Philadelphia, and working with community members in that way. Like, I guess, when you work with people in Philadelphia, is it a different kind of artistic process? Is it the same? What does it look like?
I think it's all very different. Like even this California trip has been very different. Like I started at a book fair, and then I went and talked about conservation at the Goudy Research Institute, and then now I'm here teaching students too and lecturing. So I like one thing I wanted to say is that what I've presented to you today is very focused. It doesn't encompass a lot of, telling you the stories because I'm presenting. It's like it was in an academic setting. But there's a lot that leads up to what you see here, and coincidentally, it's all about the Miao people. But I've tried to encompass many groups, but today it's mainly about the Miao. And so I like to take opportunities when they happen, when they're offered, because you learn so much and you get to see so much and meet, amazing people. So hope that answers you. Favorite book? I don't think I have a favorite book because I think I'm also affected by what other people think of other books that they like. So a lot maybe there's a book that has a much more interesting experience, but it's not necessarily my favorite product that has come out of the experience. And some of them have, like my earlier travels had much more stories to them because I didn't have so much intent of making a product that maybe I would have to exhibit. It was more about, I just wanted to do it. So it's probably the earlier works that are not here.
So, when you're making your art, have you ever been concerned about how many people will see your art, or are you more just about making those for yourself? I'm asking this question because, partially because, looking at your art, looks like they're all unique, right? Like there aren't more than one copy, and so just wondering if you ever consider making more copies so that more people can see them.
Yeah, so these actually, 10 copies, right? Which is not a lot, but it's enough for me to live and to go and make more. Gives me the resources to make more and more travels and things like that. So, but I still have in the back of my mind of still publishing that book that introduces, and as this is something I've wanted to do since 2008, and my goals have changed, and times have changed a lot, like ethics, and so my approach to maybe publishing this book would have to be a little bit different than it originally was intended. Maybe it could be more from a personal point of view, like a personal journey.
So we have time for one more question.
I was just wondering, how has your work process changed over the years? As an artist, how do you know, what your next steps are going to be? And, do you plan your next steps, or do you just kind of have, a go with the flow process on, what's happening?
I have in the past had a very much go with the flow process. I mean, coming here, I wasn't going to teach, but 2 days before I got here, I'm set up to teach here. But it wasn't a big deal for me because I feel like I'm so used to going step by step. I generally have an idea what I'm going to do for the year. In the past, it may have been a little bit less than a year, but it's a very step-by-step, organic process, I guess you could say. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Colette. It's really wonderful to hear you speak, to demonstrate your work, and also to engage with our students.
Thank you.
And also, everyone, there's food outside, beverage, and if you want to stay in the